Amud Yomi. We are broadcasting live on Rabbi Chaim. Today is Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, the middle of Elul. And we're on SUCCAH Daf Yud Amud. Today's Amud is SUCCAH Daf Yud Amud Base. We're on Yud Amud Aleph. We're at the gemorah. The gemorah in Yud Amud Aleph, about 4 lines from the bottom of the page. We're learning Nishmas. My old grandmother, Bracha Rasa of Yehuda. And let's take it away. Omar Reb Chisda. Says Reb Chisda. So, a quick recap. The Mishnah said, you got your beautiful sukkah, but you put on top of the sukkah, you put a sheet on top of it. If you put the sheet on top, you lay a nice cotton sheet on top of your sukkah. If you did it in order to protect you from the sun, the sukkah is possible. If you did it, put it underneath to catch things falling down from the SUCCAH, to catch all the bits, the dirt, it's possible. But if you put it on top of your bed for beauty reasons, then it's kosher. Says the gemorah, Amar Reb Chisda, Lo yishanu ela b'pnei hanesher. Says Reb Chisda, when is a sukkah possible? If you put the sheet underneath the SUCCAH in order to catch the leaves falling. You don't want the leaves falling into your sukkah. Aval, but if you did it if you put a nice beautiful sheet underneath curtain, imagine you got this woven embroidered piece of fabric and you put it underneath the SUCCAH. Aval noisa kshera. If the sheet is there for beauty reasons, then it's kosher. In other words, let's take a look in Rashi. Rashi's going to explain what's going on over here. Rashi is very fundamental for this. So take a look in Rashi. Rashi says, once you're putting the sheet there for practical purposes, to protect you, now it's considered SUCCAH. Now it's got the same din as SUCCAH. And it's SUCCAH pasal. Why? Rashi says, since the sheet is mekabel tumah, it can receive tumah. It's a vessel that can become impure. Therefore, it's pasal. The SUCCAH has to be made out of stuff that's not mekabel tumah. The SUCCAH has to be made of leaves and twigs that can't become tummy because it's not a kli. But this is considered a kli. It can become, it's considered a utensil, a vessel, therefore it can become tomei, therefore it's possible to be SUCCAH. Aval l'noisa, says Rashi, if you put the sheet under your SUCCAH l'noisa to beautify your sukkah, ein shem SUCCAH alev kshera. Now it's not considered to be SUCCAH. It doesn't matter, it could be this exact same sheet. You put the exact same sheet, you can have two sukkahs looking exactly the same, identical. One guy puts it there in order to protect him from the sun, from falling leaves, sukkah's pasal. No good. The other guy puts it there in order just to look pretty. What's the rule? Kosher. Not a big fan. Says the gemorah, Yesh Mefarshin. Some say, okay, back to the gemorah. Says the gemorah, says the holy Talmud, Tanan, we have a brisa. Says the brisa. You might think, even if you do it to beautify the sukkah, it should be possible. Sorry, I skipped the word. The Gemara asks, Pshita. Isn't what you've just taught us obvious? We don't need to state the obvious. No need to state the obvious, right? Use your brains. Of course, if it's for beauty reasons, it's not SUCCAH and it should be kosher, right? Pshita, the Gemara answers, no. It says in the Mishnah, only if you put it there to catch, to protect you. Therefore, if you put it there for beauty reasons, obviously, it should be good, right? Says the Gemara, no. I might think, who did not feel nicer. Even if you put it there in order to protect you, in order to beautify your living room. The reason why the Mishnah uses the term right? The reason why it uses that term is because that's how people talk, right? That's how people talk. That's why. That's why the Mishnah uses that language. So you might make the incorrect deduction from the Mishnah that it just says because that's the usual circumstance. People usually putting up a net, a screen, a thing in order to protect you from the droppings, from the leaves falling. But if you did it for beauty reasons, it would also be invalid. Says Gemara, no. If you did it for beauty, then that's good. Then that's fine. All right, says the Gemara. Leima Misayele. It looks like we've got a brisa that assists to this opinion. He's going to bring a proof from a different brisa. What does the brisa say? You put up good SUCCAH. Okay? You got your good SUCCAH, you got your 4 walls, you got your good SUCCAH, it's all kosher, right? Then what happens? You start putting up sheets and beautiful stuff and painted stuff, shkedim, hang nuts in it, a farsimkin, Romania, you're hanging pomegranates, people hang pomegranates in the sukkah. You start hanging in your sukkah all these beautiful things to make it look very beautiful. Parchilia novim, things of grapes, Vatarsha Shabailim, Yenis Shwani, hanging wine bottles and oils and siltais. So what's the din? Also, the stockbook man. Not the 10th page, we're now on 10b. Also, you cannot use these things you put up in the sukkah to beautify the sukkah. It's now got a din of muktzah. You're not allowed to use it. You can't take it down. Once you put it up in your sukkah to beautify the sukkah, now you can no longer use it. It's muktzah. Just like you can't touch something forbidden on Shabbos, you can't touch muktzah. The noy sukkah becomes muktzah, and forbidden to touch the whole 7 days. After Sukkot, now you're allowed to touch it, right? But on Chag, on the festival, you can't touch it. But if when you put the noy sukkah up, you made it tanai, you made it conditional, you put in a clause. So then your tanai helps. Your clause in putting it up helps. So says Rashi, what's going on over here? Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, what is this condition that he says? He says I'm not going to remove myself. I'm not leaving I'm not ignoring whatever exactly it means. I'm not sure. I'm not ignoring the decorations for the whole Bein Hashmoshes of the first night. In other words, how does it work? If he puts it up and he forgets about it, so if during the Bein Hashmoshes of the first day, when Yontif kicks in, that second when Yontif kicks in, we don't know when Yontif kicks in exactly to the second, it's called Bein Hashmoshes, between sunset and night. There's 40 minutes, whatever it is, 13 minutes, 18 minutes, a whole different bunch of opinions. That's called Bein Hashmoshes, between the 2 days, right? So you've got that period, sunset, after the sun goes down till it's dark. We don't know when halachically exactly it becomes nightfall. When does it become night? And once it's night, it's already the next day, because the day follows the night. So therefore, if during Bein Hashmoshes, he says that entire period, he says, I'm not removing myself. I'm not giving up on my decorations. Then it does not become muktzah the rest of Chag. If during Bein Hashmoshes, when Chag kicks in, when the festival kicks in, he forgets about it. It's up there. Then the rest of the festival, it's now muktzah. It's holy, and you can't touch it. But if he didn't, then if he says any Bible, he says a condition, I'm not leaving it the whole Bein Hashmoshes, then the Kedusha Rashi says Loichal Lai Kedusha. Then they do not become holy. You know that your sukkah decorations are holy. But if he said any Bible, then it's not holy. And therefore, if it's not holy, you can take it down. On the fourth day, you want to eat the grapes. You hang on a bunch of grapes. You want to eat it. Now you can eat it. But if you didn't say that, Shalom Aleichem, if you didn't say that, so you can't. Says the gemorah. Okay, so it says the gemorah, Dilma Menatzad. Maybe you could explain the brisa that it's on the side. Maybe the thing where it's talking about these SUCCAH, right? It's talking about he put the SUCCAH up on the wall on the side, not on top. And therefore you can't prove from here that SUCCAH on top isn't possible. Now, as we wanted to prove from this brisa that you hang up SUCCAH decorations is beautiful, and the sukkah is kosher, right? And it says that's sedinim. Even you hang a beautiful sheet, the sukkah is kosher, right? Gemara answers no. Maybe it means you hang up a sheet on the wall. You make your wall beautiful. You put up in front of your wall a nice sheet. That's what it's talking about. Not on top. If you hang up on top, really, it could be the sukkah is going to be puzzle. Okay, says Gemara Itma. A new brisa, slightly different. A new sugya. Itma. No sukkah. Ein maitim sukkah. You put up your decorations. It doesn't make the sukkah smaller. Meaning, halachically, the sukkah is not smaller. Meaning, the sukkah has to be can't be more than 20 feet high. What if the decorations are below the 20 feet? Your SUCCAH, the leaves are 30 feet high, but you've got decorations hanging way below. You've got beautiful chandelier hanging all the way down in your sukkah. You've got other decorations, and that's below 20. So what's it then? Ein maitin is a sukkah. The sukkah is still too high. The decorations doesn't count into the height of the sukkah. And also, similarly, if the sukkah is too low, if your sukkah is exactly above 10 and it's kosher, but the decorations go below 10, that's not called the sukkah is too small now. As long as the SUCCAH is above 10, your sukkah is good. All right? Amar Ravashi says Ravashi Aminatzad Memaitin. But if the decorations are on the side of the sukkah, then that does create a smaller sukkah halachically. Meaning, the sukkah has to be 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim enough you can sit there. If there's decorations in the sukkah, you can't sit there. And therefore, on the side, it does have a din that it makes the sukkah smaller halachically. And the sukkah is going to be possible. Okay, story time. Interesting story, and there's a lot to be learned from here. It's an interesting story, and we can learn here massive. Okay, we'll get to it. Minyamin Avdei de Ravashi, and there's a very common name, Binyamin, but his name was Minyamin. Avdei de Ravashi, Ravashi's helper. It Misha lebekutna b'maya. He vashteti amatlalta. He got his shirt he dipped the shirt in water. I guess he was cleaning it, and he spread it out over the sukkah in order to dry his shirt. So he's got this wet baguette. He lays it out in the sun on top of the leaves in order to dry. Omalei Ravashi Dalia. Take it down. The loylemru komisachi b'dava makabel tumah. Since his baguette, his clothes is makabel tumah, a garment can become tumah, right? So since his shirt is makabel tumah, and he put it on top of the SUCCAH, he says, take it down. People are going to think that you can use something that's makabel tumah. You can go use your shirts for SUCCAH. You can make your sheets into SUCCAH. No, it's not good. Take it down. So what happened? So he said to him, this guy knew what he was talking, he knew his stuff, he was a Talmud Chacham. He said to him, what do you mean? People are going to see it, it's wet, and I'm just drying it in the sun. No one's going to think you can use it as SUCCAH. So he said back to him, I meant that when it's dry, take it down. I didn't mean take it down now. When it's wet, keep it up there, there's nothing wrong. But when it's dry, take it down. Itma. Says the Brisa, Noi sukkah, hamuflog mimena arba. You got sukkah decorations. If they're more than 4 from the SUCCAH, 4 tvachim, your leaves are up here, your SUCCAH's up here, and the decorations are about 40 centimeters below the SUCCAH. So again, the decorations are muflag, they're 40 centimeters below the SUCCAH. Rav Nachman says there's nothing wrong with it, it's fine. Decorations is fine. It could be 10 below, it could be 20 below, it could be 5 below. And that little letter says that's halacha. They say it's possible. Your decorations can't hang more than 40 centimeters below the SUCCAH. Says the gemorah. Story time. Now there's a lot to be taken out of this story. This is an interesting story here. Now this Rav Chisda V'Rav Bar Rafuna both said it's possible. They both They went to the house of the Reish Galusa. They went to the house of the president, who was Rav Huna, or Rav Nachman, sorry. Agne Rav Nachman b'sukkah, shenoyam uflag mena arba tvachim. He put them to sleep. They came to visit him. He was the godless, the Nasi, and they came to visit him. And his decorations were hanging 40 below the SUCCAH, right? And it's machlekes, if it's kosher, if it's pasul. Rav Huna said it's kosher. Rav Nachman said it's kosher. And they came to Rav Nachman's house, and Rav Chisda and Rav Bar Rav Huna, they both said it's possible. They came to his house, right? So again, they come to his house. He says it's kosher, and they say it's possible. So what happens? Ashtiku v'am levelay midi. They didn't say anything to him. He says it's kosher, and that's how he made a sukkah, right? They didn't say anything to him. They kept quiet. He's the Nasi. He's the Gadol Adar, or he's the Reish Galusa. They didn't say anything. Rav Nach. So what happens? He didn't say anything to them. They didn't say anything to him. They didn't say, "Well, your sukkah's pasul." He holds his kosher, right? Amalahu. So Rav Nachman said to them, "Hodu b'Rabbanu mishmatayu." Did you retract your din? You said it's pasul. I see you're going to sleep over here, right? I see you going to sleep. You hold a kosher sukkah now? You change your minds? They said to him, no, we didn't change our minds. We still are of the opinion that your sukkah is pasul. It's not a good sukkah. So why are you going to sleep? You're not allowed to sleep out of the sukkah. You're not allowed to sleep outside of the sukkah, so why are you going to sleep? They said to him, we are busy doing a mitzvah. We are exempt from sitting in a sukkah. We're exempt. We don't need to. We don't need to sit in a sukkah because we're doing another mitzvah. So machlek is what the mitzvah is. The pashtus here is that the mitzvah they're doing is visiting the Rav, visiting the Reish Galusa. It's a mitzvah of Mekabel Rabba B'Chag. There's a mitzvah to go visit your Rav on Chag. And therefore, that's the mitzvah. They said, we're doing a mitzvah. We don't need to sit in the sukkah. Now, there's a couple of questions over here. I'll read it inside in the Ritva, because why not? It's from the Ritva. Ask the Ritva, what's going on over here? So, Pirish. אף אגב דקת לידע רב גמליאל דהג'ו משמעתיו, הידוע ויש לו חידום מצווה. ולא יחש תהבי חתיכת ישראל לדידי. How could Rav Nachman give them a chaticha d'surah? You're not allowed to give someone treif. You're not allowed to give someone something that's not kosher. It's called as a isn of Torah of a lifnei ivel sisa michshal. You're not allowed to put a stumbling block in front of a blind man. That's what the Torah says. You're not allowed to put a stumbling block in front of a blind man. So how could Rav Nachman put this stumbling block in front of these people? In other words, they're going to go to sleep in the sukkah. They're going to make a bracha in the sukkah. They have to make a bracha, leishav b'sukkah. How can he do that? They hold the sukkah's pasul. How are you allowed to give these people, ask the Ritva, lifnei v'lesis? How are you allowed to put a stumbling block in front of them? Yeshivs, some say, the Maha Shamina, we learn from this very important gemorah, Shamaychal Chaver Mashuhu Mutalai Lefitaitai, I'm allowed to, if you think something is permitted, I'm allowed to give it to you. If I think something is permitted, in other words, what's he saying? You're right that Rav Nachman, according to Rav Nachman, it was mutar, right? Just because they think it's possible, they think it's wrong, that doesn't mean it's also for me. It's only also for me if it's only also for me to give it to you if I think it's a stumbling block. But if just because you think it's also, you think it's a problem, I don't have to care about that. I only have to care if I think it's a problem. In other words, I don't know, to make life simple. A guy comes to my house and I eat rabbanut. I think it's kosher. He thinks it's not kosher for whatever reason. And he really thinks it's not kosher. There's people that think it's not kosher. So am I over if I give him rabbanut meat? Says the Ritva, no. Maybe the first way he understands it, no. As long as I think it's kosher, I can give it to him. In other words, as far as the stumbling block goes, you can't put a stumbling block in front of a blind man. It's not a stumbling block. I think it's not a stumbling block. The floor's flat. I gave him something good. He thinks it's a stumbling block. That's not my problem. I can't put what I think is a stumbling block. It doesn't matter if he thinks it's a stumbling block. I don't think it's a stumbling block. He's not doing anything wrong. He's sitting in a good sukkah. I can give it to him. That's the first opinion. Okay, that's the first opinion. That there's no problem with lifnei yiver as long as I'm of the opinion that it's good. I don't have to go ahead and think, oh, you hold it's asa, now I've got to be misyachas to you. No, says the Ritva. I don't need to go ahead and do that. As long as I think it's mutar, as long as I eat rabbanut, I can give you rabbanut. That's the first malach in the Ritva. Second thing he says, v'nirali, says the Ritva, no. I don't like it. It's not enough. V'nirali davka b'pnei she'isa nikala chaverai. When can I give you the rabbanut meat? Only if I tell you, by the way, it's rabbanut. Only if you know that there's an issue over here. Why? In other words, he's not blind. I'm putting a stumbling block in front of you, but I'm not putting a stumbling block in front of him that's blind. He's not blind. He sees. He sees that there's a sheet there. He knows that there's a problem. You want to eat it? You're doing it yourself. I'm not forcing you. In other words, like this. If you come to my house and I tell you it's all Eid Charedis, it's all great Haksha, it's all the chief rabbi, I don't know what, right? And then it turns out that it's Rav Mahmud, right? And I'm Saimach on it. It's something that no one's Saimach on. I tricked you. You're an Iver, you don't know. I fooled you. But if I tell you, by the way, this is Rabbi Nut of Nazareth, right? Therefore, if you eat it, that's your problem. You're not blind. I told you. That's what he's saying over here. That you need two conditions. First of all, I think it's permitted, and second of all, you know that there's an issue over here. You decided to do it anyway. But for me to go ahead and give you something that you think is also, that's a problem. So what actually is a din when it comes to hechsherim? Am I allowed to give you something that actually you don't eat? I don't know. Based on this, if he doesn't know it's asa, according to the Ritva, if he doesn't know you're giving him a weaker hechsher, so it's a problem. You got to tell him. But that's only if it's asa, according to the guy. I don't know halachically. I'm saying most people will tell you it's kosher, just it's actually they don't eat, right? They want mahadran. So is that called a stumbling block? If someone only wants to eat mahadran and you're giving something that's not mahadran, the best level, is that called a stumbling block? It's not asa. I don't know if that's called lifnei yiver lesis. Fascinating sugya, very, very relevant in many segments, especially for mashgichim, that type of thing. Someone asks you, very big issues. Okay. Now the second, once we're here, we'll take a look at the second mitzvah. Ritva says, Anon shluchim mitzvah p'turim. They told him, we're shluchim mitzvah, we're doing a mitzvah, we don't need to sit in the sukkah. So Pirish says the Ritva, what does this mean? When is a shluchim mitzvah potem in a mitzvah? You go ahead to do a mitzvah. When do you no longer have to sit in the sukkah? That's only if you can't do both. You can't do the mitzvah and sit in the sukkah. If they now have to go ahead and find a sukkah, build a sukkah, right? It would be a big burden for them, and they would not be able to do the original mitzvah that they set out to do. If they could keep both mitzvahs, then they're potter. Sorry. If they could do both mitzvahs, if they could also sit in the sukkah and do the other mitzvah they were planning on doing, whether it was, I don't know, they were going to, whatever it was, they went to visit a sick grandmother, right? Then they're not potter and they have to sleep in the sukkah, but then mitzvah, potter ben a mitzvah. So now he asks, but what happens with Torah? We have a principle. With Torah, potter ben a tefillin. Someone that's learning Torah, it says he's potter from tefillin. If you learn Torah, you don't need to wear tefillin. Says the Ritva, lav ma'ai taimehu. It's not because Isaac mitzvah potter ben a mitzvah. Why? Because you can learn Torah with tefillin on. It doesn't bother you. You can learn Torah with tefillin on. At time of Mishon, the machshavta truda b'talmudai v'kehesach das. The reason why you don't need to wear tefillin if you're learning Torah is because when you learn Torah, you're busy thinking about what you're learning. That's the whole point. Your brain has to be completely focused on this thing you're learning, the Torah you're learning, the Torah you're studying, right? And therefore, you can't think about tefillin. There's a problem called hesach das, and tefillin tzarich shelo yeh hesach das, man. Kal v'chaim mitzitz. And there's a principle, says the Ritva, you're not allowed to take your machshavas off your tefillin. You're wearing tefillin, you always have to be aware that you're wearing tefillin. And we learn that out from tzitz. The tzitz is one Shem Hashem. He's always got to think about the tzitz. Tefillin has this name of God many, many times. So you have to always be thinking about the tefillin. And therefore, when you're learning Torah, you're part from tefillin. Because you can't think about Torah and tefillin, says the Ritva. Therefore, you don't need to wear tefillin. It's not because Isaac b'mitzvah potter ben mitzvah. It's not because you're doing one thing, you don't have to do the other thing. No, you could do both. It doesn't bother you from learning. You wear tefillin and learn Torah. But since you can't think about the tefillin while you learn Torah, so it's better not to wear the tefillin, says the Ritva. Because it's hesach das. Kal v'chaymer from the tzitz. All the more so from the tzitz. If you have to think about the tzitz, you've got to think about your tefillin. You can't not pay attention to your tefillin. You've got God's name on your head. You have to think about it. Obviously, it's a big machlokes. Other Rishonim, if I'm not mistaken, I think the same on it, they learn that the din of hesach das is not that you always have to be thinking about tefillin. I think Perena, the Rambam, he's of the opinion, I haven't seen it in a long time, so forgive me if I'm wrong over here. According to the Rambam, maybe I'll take a look what he says over here. According to the Rambam, the problem is only hesach das is only to do something that's a zilzal for the tefillin. You can't think about bad things. You can't do things that's a zilzal, right? But there's a disgrace for the tefillin. But just not to think about the tefillin, that's not a problem of hesach das. Hold on, let me take a quick look at this. He brings the Ri in Maseches Brachos that says that the whole point of wearing tefillin, we say, why are we wearing tefillin? It says in the Parshas, Leman tiyet teres Hashem beficha. The reason why we wear tefillin, you have to think about this. And according to the Bachetz Ma'akav, if you don't think about this when you put tefillin, you're not yet to tefillin b'chal. I think I'll go put tefillin on today again. If you don't think about it, you put tefillin, you're not yet to tefillin according to the Bach. Leman tiyet teres Hashem beficha. We're putting on tefillin to remind us that we should learn the Hashem's Torah. That's why you wear tefillin. That's the whole point of the tefillin. And since that's the reason to wear tefillin, if you're learning Torah, you don't need to wear the tefillin. You're doing the reason of wearing tefillin. So when should you wear tefillin? When you're not learning Torah. When you're not learning Torah, you should wear tefillin to remind me, oh my gosh, I should be learning Torah now. I should be wasting my time. Let's learn Torah. But if you're learning Torah, you don't need to wear the tefillin. But when you're davening and you're saying Kriya Shema, then you've got to wear tefillin. You're not learning Torah. And also, knowlege should be Kabul Ol Shemaim Shleima. It will assist you in accepting the yoke of heaven properly when you're wearing tefillin. That's why you wear tefillin, when you daven, when you say Kriya Shema. Okay, so we're going to have to end over here. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Shkoyach. Thank you for listening.